Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Unfortunately, we didn't get as much turnout time as we would like to, but ultimately, like I said, this presentation will be recorded, and you'll also be sent a copy of the presentation. My name is Caroline Campbell, and I am the marketing manager at IGI Global. Also here I have Abdul, who is our sales coordinator, specifically focusing around the databases. So as we go down through this, feel free to type any questions you have in the chat box, and then we can go ahead and get started. So starting off, what I would like to just give a little bit of background about, IGI Global and IGI Global as a company, and how we are specifically different than a lot of other publishers. So we were actually founded by an academician and researcher himself, Dr. Mehdi Khazarpour. Dr. Khazarpour was a Penn State professor at Penn State University, and because we do come from that academic sphere, what you will see is that we take academic publishing a little bit differently. Just to kind of go a little bit more into that backstory. So Dr. Khazarpour was actually interested in publishing a journal. It was specifically the Information Resource Management Journal, or IRMJ, and he went to one of the larger publishers, and they told him at that time that it was going to take 1 to 2 years to get published. As you know, specifically with technology, it evolves rapidly. So 1 to 2 year turnaround time. By the time it's published, all of that research is going to be outdated. So he pretty much took that experience and then started his own imprint, with IRMJ being its first journal. And we are still producing that journal and publishing that journal today. So what you will see is that we started out actually as a journal publisher, and then we expanded over into reference books and then also scholarly journals. Currently, we have 185 scholarly journals, 5,300 reference books, and then also our full line of InfoSci databases. In 2016, we also went through and actually unveiled our own electronic platform during the Frankfurt Book Fair. And then what you'll see when we get into it is our open access initiative. We unveiled that in early 2018. So ultimately looking at, what makes IGI Global different. I know I went a little bit into our overall history, being from an academician's viewpoint, but what you'll see is that during the inception of our company, we really focused on the editorial aspect of publishing. The fact that a lot of our competitors are, publishing content between still that 1 to 2 year time, we really focused on putting technological processes so we can speed up that publishing time. So right now, it takes us about 6 to 7 months to get a reference book from the contracting phase to the end of the release phase. It takes around that 6 to 7 month period for some of our larger publications. And then even on some of our smaller monograph authored publications, it's going to take us around 4 to 5 months. And that's all, conducted through our own customized system called the e-editorial discovery system. With that, sometimes you might see on other publishers' websites that, they follow along the same publishing timelines. However, when we're publishing everything is going through a double-blind peer review process. We're in strict adherence with the Committee on Publication Ethics. So what you're going to find is that our content's going to be a lot more timely, where it's also going to be a lot more niche, and then there will be that quality control aspect to it as well. Everything we publish is actually done in-house, minus the printing of the actual publications. We work with a large printer distribution network to print the publications, but because we do everything in-house from the acquisitions phase to the production, development, and then also marketing phase, is that allows us to pretty much build upon a business model that is extreme on agility. So we're able to swiftly react to changes within the industry, see emerging trends and opportunities, really talk to our librarian community, our research community, to find solutions for them. And we're able to enact those a lot faster. Like I said, this initiative, once we get into it, we actually foresaw this, the open access movement and Plan S before Plan S actually happened. And because of this, we have been able to collaborate with over 100,000 scholars from prestigious institutions all over the world, including the United States and also Europe, the UK. And what you will see is that we are growing because of this as well. So for this copyright year, we are expected to release 600 titles. For the following copyright year, it's going to be 800 titles. And by then, 2021, it will be over 1,000 titles. Just to put that a little bit into perspective, we will be outpacing Sage. And then also what you'll see, like I said earlier, is that all of this is organic growth. This is researchers wanting to come back to us because we do have that mission in mind that research needs to be shared, that we do have those expedient publishing timelines, that we do everything in-house. So we really have that focused, personalized care. So moving on, specifically what you might know IGI Global for is our information, science, and technology titles. Starting off with IRMG as our first journal, we did have that scope in mind. However, a few years ago, probably 2 or 3 years ago, we did expand to 11 different subject areas. So you can see that up on the screen. Right now, business, education, medical, and social sciences and humanities are actually becoming some of our largest subject areas that people are interested in publishing with. And what you'll see is that we still have some of that information science technology focused publications, but then we're also expanding it to overall applied research. Like I said earlier, we really do focus on those niche titles. So because we were founded by a researcher, an academician, we come at it from research needs to be shared, no matter what the value of that research is. So with a lot of larger publishers, they might not necessarily take a chance on some niche content coverage because they don't see the profits. Where we as a publisher take it from the stance of, ultimately we don't know what's going to be valuable for the academic community. We don't know what, the researchers or your patrons are ultimately going to want to need. So we include some of that niche content coverage. And then as always, like any other publisher, we do have some of the broader content coverage. So then so kind of giving you a little bit of a backstory, a little bit about, us as an agile company. We unveiled our IGI Global's transformative open access fee waiver read and publish initiative. Like I said, unfortunately, there's not more attendees on the call because ultimately we really want to hear from you and get your feedback on this initiative. Also, we really want this to take root in the library and academic community. Obviously, like I said, we are a medium-sized publisher. I know there's a lot of dialogue going around about, the big deals that are happening with the major 4 publishers. There's a lot of other kind of offset models in the conversation. And often as a medium-sized publisher, we're being overshadowed by all that noise. So ultimately, we're looking to partner with the library community, with specifically also the librarians, within your consortium to really make this known and really, stand up and be able to provide a truly sustainable open access model. Also on top of that, what you'll see as we get into the details is that this is going to be 100% OAPC funding. So pretty much we're doing a truly sustainable model for the librarians, for the researchers, and then also for the publisher. So just to give you a little bit of background information, like I said, we unveiled this early 2018. So before mandates like Plan S came down, before all this conversation kind of spooled up. In November, IGI Global hosted a Neapolitan session at the 2018 Charleston conference around this very topic, specifically looking at our journal content. We invited a librarian, we had some publisher industry experts with that as well, and I've just pulled a few slides from that specific presentation just to kind of showcase what's kind of happening and where this exactly came from. So Dr. Kazapur led off this presentation, and we looked at specifically some of the common funding sources for article processing charges. So overall, what we were seeing is astronomically, even though there's still outside grant fundings, there's still, organizations that are helping researchers, authors are still paying for article processing charges themselves. That is the largest pool. And then as you get down through it, you see there's outside grant funding, and then you see pretty much the bottom part of it coming from the actual institution. And sometimes, in some cases, depending on the country, it's actually coming from the libraries themselves. So, the librarian community's facing shrinking budgets, but then also faced with the reality that they need to now support, their researchers in publishing open access. And then we're also seeing then from the publisher side of viewpoint, the concept of double dipping. And I know there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of articles, a lot of librarians, standing up against this concept of double dipping. Just to give you a prime example of this, that there was a study done with University of Edinburgh in Scotland for 2016 and 2017 year, just looking specifically at open access funding. They spent over $1 million on article processing charges for their researchers to publish in open access. Of that initial fund, 53% of their total spend went to 3 publishers. And I'm sure, sitting here, we can name off easily those 3 publishers that took those funds. Of that, 965 articles were funded. So pretty much, those 3 publishers took article processing charges from that institution. And then, ultimately what librarians were seeing is that they're also charging astronomical fees for, perpetually purchasing and subscribing to their content as well. So once again, bringing in that double dipping concept. Just to kind of put that in perspective from the library's perspective, alternatively, the University of Edinburgh could have purchased, nearly 14,000 books and then also around 28,000 journal subscriptions. Instead of that funding necessarily going to open access funding, it could have ultimately gone into providing the librarians with more resources and then also providing the researchers with more resources. So we really took that concept, we really took that feedback that we were getting from, the librarians about double dipping early on in the process, the feedback that we were also getting from our researchers from the editorial side, letting us know how difficult it is for them to find a quality publisher to publish under open access, with the looming threats of limited funding and then also of predatory publishing. And our ultimate goal was to create a model that would be truly sustainable. It would provide a credible channel for researchers to publish. It would create an additional source of article processing funding. And then ultimately it would equip librarians with the resources and tools needed to help their patrons in publishing open access. Also looking at to get quality content within their institutions, even though, a lot of librarian budgets are shrinking or also plateaued. And then we really want to get the publishers on board with the overall model because quite frankly, coming from us, looking at it even from a business aspect, it's almost unethical, the fact that they're double dipping. They're taking it from the researcher side, they're taking it from the librarian side. And then I also know, specifically then looking at Europe, a lot of times that's actual taxpayer money because they go towards funding educational institutions. So our ultimate goal was, get publishers on board with that. Equip librarians with this program to see how we can take this investment from the librarians for their publications and then reinvest it into the open access model. So ultimately, believe it or not, our OA fee read and publish initiative is actually very simplistic. Essentially, what we will do is we will take when a library invests in InfoSci-Books or InfoSci-Journals databases, which are our full collections of books and journals, we'll match that library's investment with a fund to go towards their faculty and staff's open access article processing charges when their work is submitted and accepted into an IGI Global journal under open access. So just to kind of go a little bit more in depth of exactly what IGI Global's InfoSci databases are. So InfoSci-Books is our full collection of 53,000 reference books. Our InfoSci-Journals is our full collection of 185 scholarly journals. And then we do also break that down on the subject and discipline level. So then just to kind of put this in perspective and provide an example. So what you will see too as we carry on, and if you visit our website, something else that we did that was a little bit different than a lot of publishers is that we actually unveiled simple and completely transparent pricing in all of our databases. So we looked at it as, we want to be as upfront, we want to be as flexible as possible when we're working with the library community. So taking this example, for a 2020 annual subscription to our InfoSci-Journals, which is our collection of 185 plus scholarly journals, it is going to be around $5,000. So when your institution invests in our InfoSci-Journals, we will take that $5,350 and create a fund. Essentially, we will go ahead and process that, create a fund, and then it'll go towards the open access article processing charges when your faculty and staff has been accepted under OA into an IGI Global journal. So just to put that in perspective, essentially it's going to be 3 articles are going to be funded when you invest in InfoSci-Journals, because our article processing charges for open access is around $1,500. One thing I do also really want to express is the fact that your researchers have to have their papers peer-reviewed and accepted into an IGI Global journal. I know sometimes we get a few questions regarding that, but there is still going to be that quality vetted process that will go in place. So once again, we'll take that investment, match it for a fund equal to your investment, and then ultimately provide that towards subsidizing your faculty and staff's OA charges. Like I said, it's really that simplistic. We broke it down here in 5 steps. So step 1, IGI Global invests in one of our InfoSci databases. We'll create an open access fund equal to that amount. Authors or your faculty members will submit their articles under open access to a journal within our entire collection. And then that peer review process is conducted. The EI editor-in-chief is also involved, and then they ultimately decide if it's accepted or rejected. If the article is accepted, IGI Global will notify, yourself being the librarian, and then also that researcher to let them know they have an opportunity to take advantage of the open access fee waiver initiative. And then if the author says, yes, I want to go ahead and take advantage of this, I want my open access charges subsidized, we'll go ahead and deduct that 1,500 APC from that created fund. Then oppositely looking at if it's rejected, obviously no article processing charge will be utilized and nothing will be taken out of the institution's publishers allocated open access APC funds. Often we will get questions regarding, who's ultimately in charge of monitoring this fund and who's ultimately in charge of, making sure that we're maximizing and utilizing this fund. We as a publisher, we track all of this. We do all the logistics. However, we have had some librarians get really excited about this and really want to look down into the numbers and then actually control the fund themselves. So through this whole process, it's going to be a very collaborative process between IGI Global and then also that specific librarian on who should ultimately manage the fund. We have one institution, for instance, the librarian just wants to monitor it, so we give them updates on, who's publishing, who's not publishing. And we have other libraries who really see opportunities within their institutions and say, hey, I want to control this fund, and I only want to offer it to specific, departments within my institution. We ultimately let that up to the institution themselves. So a lot of times what we hear is that librarians will say, I'm only going to offer this fund to our, humanities departments, where we see there's an overall lack of open access funding. So it's ultimately up to the librarian on what they choose, but like we said in step 5, so if an article is accepted, IGI Global, our team will reach out to that author and then let them know. Ultimately looking at it from the researcher side, we want to make sure that our research that we have is being fully, utilized to the best of its ability. So what you will see more often than not, an author will decide to take advantage of the fund itself. Normally we don't get any no's, but then also what that does for that specific researcher, as you most likely know, is that helps raise the citation impact of their research. It helps them kind of establish themselves potentially even as an industry leader within that field of research. And then ultimately, we get a lot of positive feedback that, it helps boost the prestige of that institution because it is truly open access. So what you'll see through these 5 steps, Like I said, the library will invest in one of our databases, we'll match that fund to open access funding, and then it'll go towards the researcher. The reason we have this kind of circular model and sustainable model is because ultimately, coming from the publisher's perspective, it costs money to publish, peer-reviewed, vetted research from the partner side. That's why Abdul and I are here, obviously on the marketing side, but we also have all of our development teams, our production teams that make sure that, these publications are going through the right avenues, through the right channels to make sure that it is quality research that the academic community is getting. So what you'll see when the library invests in our databases, you are pretty much helping us cover those specific costs. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and just open access, provide that open access sustainable model to the institution, your institution staff. So then looking at the overall pros and cons of this model. So obviously there's some very obvious ones. It helps, librarians maximize their budgets. It helps them support their researchers in finding credible outlets to publish under open access. And then also looking at it on a broader spectrum, it supports the overall open access movement. It provides researchers with an additional source of open access funding. So bringing in that argument once again, some researchers really struggle, especially early career researchers might struggle with trying to find sources of open access funding. Also, looking at the databases, it provides the librarians with access to 53,000 reference books, 185 highly indexed journals that truly contains timely and peer-reviewed research, and also makes it available to your institution as well, so those researchers can use that research within their own professional development courses, etc. And then ultimately, something that I know a lot of individuals get really excited about, it provides the librarians with a way to market their content. So I know we always get questions about how can I truly maximize, my investment. There's conference presentations around it. I know at the Charleston conference, at this year's UKSG, questioning how can I get my researchers excited and actually utilize, the resources that we do have at the library. Essentially, this is a great marketing tool for specific libraries to utilize to say, hey, use these resources, use this open access funding, help us truly, make sure that we're able to resubscribe, we're able to, continually, perpetually purchase this content by using this content and then filtering it through the usage statistics. Also, it helps increase that librarian and also researcher communication, pretty much, offering another library service, making it super simple for, librarians to go to researchers saying that, I can support you in your open access funding. Also, you have IGI Global in your corner, so if you have any questions or even want us to talk to some of your patrons, we can help set up publishing workshops. We can help, start that dialogue. So you truly have a support system for marketing your overall content. So now, of course, with any pros, there are always cons to some programs. Sometimes what we'll see is, if the librarian and us as the publisher don't really collaborate and let this be known throughout the institution, institutions risk not getting the full scope of the benefits. So essentially, to kind of explain with the more logistical side of that fund, so if you are subscribing to our InfoSci-Journals, once that subscription year is up, what ends up happening and you don't resubscribe, those funds will go away. So it's not going to be rolled over into the next subscription year. So that's one potential risk. Also, obviously, the most obvious con is if that library institution isn't invested in IGI Global's InfoSci databases, the faculty can't have their open access article processing charges waived. So they're going to have to find ways to fund that 1,500 APC fee. Another con, which isn't necessarily really a con, but sometimes we'll see a potential lack of diversity from participation of researchers in developing nations. So just based on, obviously librarians across the world are facing shrinking budgets, but then also looking at some of those developing nations that might not necessarily have the funding to invest in even our simple transparent pricing of our databases, they might not necessarily be able to take advantage of this program. And then ultimately, like I said at the beginning of the presentation, there's not enough buy-in from the academic community around this. That's why, we're truly looking to pair with that librarian, the librarians. We're really looking to pretty much go nuclear with this program. Something else that is really important to kind of even look at it from a librarian's perspective is that you can utilize this to pretty much help negotiate with the larger publishers to show that, IGI Global is a reputable, medium-sized publisher. They're rapidly growing. They're going to have 1,000 books. In the 2021 copyright year, they're offering this truly sustainable 100% buy-in, model, and pretty much, look at where they're priced on their databases, look at what they're doing, look at how this is a different model, and pretty much negotiate down some of those larger publishers. Even though you're seeing some, a little bit of buy-in, or, people are trying to come up with new programs. Like I said, this is a truly sustainable 100% sustainable model that we are doing. Just to put that in perspective, exactly what that is, I do have the prices up there as well. So what you'll see when if you go on our website, we're about priced for, some of our authored and edited references. It's anywhere between $100 to $200. So as a part of this collection, this is ultimately going to be the best cost benefit to the librarian, because it offers for the $22 per publication. And then you can see the total value of this database. If you want to learn more, I did put all of the URLs at the bottom. And like I said, a recording will go out of this presentation along with the presentation itself. So if you want any more information about this, please feel free to reach out to us. Now switching over to InfoSci-Journals. I know right now there's a lot of conversation around, journal subscriptions and how costly it is for libraries to subscribe to our journal collections. So ultimately what we're looking to do with our InfoSci-Journals database is really make it affordable. We've had some librarians actually put it into their discretionary funds to make sure that they make this available, because it is such a lower price point compared to, their normal subscription funds. Another thing that you'll see is that we're very highly flexible, so we can do 2 to 3 installments. You just shoot Abdul, IGI Global, Nikki a quick email. Just let us know, the different circumstances that you're facing, and we can see if we can come up with a solution. And then ultimately through this trust offer as well, you will be able to take advantage of the open access article fee waiver initiative as well. So ultimately, like I said, I know I'm probably not going to take the full hour, but at this time, if you had any questions regarding the overall presentation, please feel free to insert it into the chat box. Like I said, we ultimately want to make this kind of a collaborative process and really get the feedback, really get some of those questions answered for you. Also, if there are any questions that Abdul and myself are unable to answer, we can also get our Director of Marketing and Sales, Nick Newcomer, involved. Unfortunately, he couldn't be up here for this webinar because he is currently traveling for business out of town. But even if we need to get him involved, even Dr. Kazarpour himself involved, we can definitely shoot over some questions to them and then do a follow-up piece on this specific webinar. So like I said, at this time, if you have any questions regarding this initiative, please feel free to type them in the chat box below. Okay, so the question is, I assume the OA fund can only be used for open access for articles, not books. This is correct. So currently, IGI Global does not have any open access books. That's actually something that we are currently investigating. So, we'll definitely keep you posted, but it will be for journals. All of IGI Global's journals also are hybrid open access as well. And just based on the feedback of this initiative that we're getting, we are also investigating ways of potentially even doing fully open access journals. So we just got another, it looks like another question that we got was, can we retroactively apply this fund? So essentially I think the question is, if we have contributors that have already published with IGI Global, are we able to take that fund and then retroactively open up their articles? Yes. So like I said, we're truly collaborative. So a lot of times what we'll get is we will have an institution invest in one of our collections. We'll pull a contributor list, and then we'll see that a lot of the contributors from that institution have published with IGI Global. And ultimately, like I said, it's up to the librarian if they want to offer that to the people who have already published, but we will retroactively go back and open it up for open access. It's just a little bit of a dialogue between us, as the publisher, and then as the librarian. So just bringing that to our attention. Another question that we sometimes get to is, ultimately this presentation was focused around our InfoSci-Books and InfoSci-Journals, but if a library does invest in one of our subject collections or discipline databases, so essentially our larger InfoSci-Books and InfoSci-Journals are all broken down by subject-focused collections, that will also go towards, is applicable to this initiative as well. So say your institution invests in our InfoSci business and management database, we'll take that investment and then match it to go towards open access funding as well. Okay, and then we can take one more question if you have any. If not, we can go ahead then and move forward with ending the presentation. Okay, so since we have no additional questions, if you are interested in more information, please feel free to visit our website. And then as always, feel free to reach out. Obviously, I know Nikki's on the call with us right now, but also you can reach out to Nick Newcomer, who's our Senior Director of Marketing and Sales, Abdul, myself, if you want any further information. Like I said, the recording will be sent out along with the presentation, and then definitely be sure to share this with all of your librarian colleagues. Like I said, we want to go nuclear with this initiative. We want to collaborate with you, pretty much strong arm and take over the entire publishing industry into, ultimately providing solutions that will benefit the librarian community and also the researcher community. All right, but we really thank you for your time. I know a lot of people are trying to get through their end of the year budget, and then also some people are on holiday as well. So thank you so much for your time. And like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you.